Here's the star of the show, a gorgeous piece of prime rib, weighing in at 2 pounds and 10 ounces. Still has the one bone in it here. Now it's time to get it seasoned up. To season the meat, I'm going to be using only kosher salt. This is a nice piece of meat with lots of marbling and loaded with flavor. So take your salt, give it a nice even coating on both sides, and do all the edges and sides as well. This is a big piece of meat, so don't be shy with the salt. Then we'll wrap it up, place it in the fridge, let the salt absorb into the meat. Then just simply lightly press it in so it sticks to the meat. Flip it over and get the other side. The barbecue I'm going to be using today is a Weber 22-inch kettle barbecue filled with hardwood lumped charcoal. To get it started, I have one of the Weber starter cubes. It's a paraffin wax cube, so no fussing with chimneys, lighter fluid. Just start the cube, place a little charcoal right over it, and it gets going in just a couple minutes. To add a nice smoky flavor, I added a handful of hickory wood chips. As the fire burns down the charcoal, it will slowly keep the hickory wood chips smoking away. It's best to get the smoke on your meat while it's cold and wet when you first get it on to get the best flavor and penetration with the smoke. So leave the wood at the start, and then later on we'll take this, flatten it out to sear the steak. Roast, whatever it is, prime rib. Once you have the fire lit on the barbecue, place a bowl with 3 cups of water directly over the heat. As this heats up, it's going to produce steam, creating a nice, moist cooking environment for the meat. To keep a close eye on the temperatures of the barbecue and the internal temperature of the meat, I'm going to be using a Maverick ET733. One probe goes on the barbecue, measuring the cooking heat, and this probe will go directly in the middle of the meat, measuring the internal temperature as the meat cooks. Barbecue's all set up and ready to go. Got the Maverick ET733 all hooked up. Charcoal lit, water on. Let's get the lid on. Let everything get nice and warm, and that water steaming away. Here's a closer peek so everyone can see what's going on. That's the Maverick ET733 with the 2 probes. So one's monitoring the barbecue temperature back here. The second one is measuring the internal temperature of the meat as it cooks away. Bottom vents are barely open, about 1/4 of an inch if you can see down there. We got our charcoal slowly cooking away, going down the line with that hickory wood smoking and steam coming off the water pan. Temperatures dropped because I got the lid open for a while here and I'm filming. But get the lid on, let it keep cooking, and we'll come back and take a peek. After 23 minutes, the barbecue is sitting at 196 and the meat has an internal temperature of 86 degrees Fahrenheit. Let's crack the lid and take a quick peek. You can see the hickory wood is smoking away. Push the water bowl over just a touch, and you can see the smoke is starting to stick with the meat, changing the color just a little bit. Get the lid back on. Everything's looking good. Don't want the temperature to spike up too much. After 43 minutes, the barbecue is sitting at 221 degrees and the meat has an internal temperature of 113 degrees. Take a peek. You can see the smoke sticking to the side of the meat, giving it that nice color. Charcoal's cooking away. The wood's still smoking. Water's steaming, gone down quite a little bit. I'll push that over just an inch or so. But everything is looking good. Don't want the temperature to spike up. So get the lid back on and let it keep cooking. Just hit the 1 hour mark. Barbecue is sitting at 219 degrees with an internal temperature of 127 on the meat. Let's crack the lid. Check it out. See a nice color from the smoke going all across the meat now. Come over here. You can see the color darker on the sides. But everything's looking perfect here. Charcoal's just barely cooking away. Still got that hickory wood putting off a little bit of smoke and steam coming out of the water bowl. Just one heads up. Some of these internal probes, they get warm and they read a higher temp. So I'm just gonna go grab my thermopen, a digital instant read thermometer, and take a few probes to make sure we're sitting where we says it is. Pop the lid off and we'll check some probe samples with a thermopen. It's a digital instant read thermometer. So we'll go right in the middle, right around where the probe is. And you can see the probe is reading at 127, while the thermopen's sitting at 112. I trust the thermopen a lot more. Again, these probes heat up while they're cooking and they'll give you a higher temperature reading. So having a good instant read thermometer is always a good idea to have on hand. After 1 hour and 24 minutes, the barbecue is sitting at 225 degrees and the meat says it's at 140 for the internal temperature with the Maverick ET733 probe. Now go in with a thermopen right into the middle and check your temperatures. You can see it's quite a bit off, 14 degrees there, but we're getting close to 130. That's at 130 there, that's pretty much the middle. So I'm gonna pull it off and place it on a plate and tent it with tin foil. Get up nice and close so everyone can take a good look. You can see the smoke on the meat. A little hole there is from poking the thermopen in. But the color on the outside is from the smoke. The meat is cooking away, it's nice and tender. So now it's time to get a nice sear on the outside. First thing, remove the probe. Just slide her out, set it off to the side. Take the prime rib and just place it on a plate. Going to cover it with tin foil and let it rest off to the side while we get the charcoal fired up nice and hot. So wrap it up nice and tight around the plate. And just let it rest. Now to keep it easy, just gonna make a nice bed of hot coals so we can sear the beef over. This is why I start by putting extra charcoal on the barbecue. Then just move it over, placing the hot coals at the bottom and the unlit charcoal right on top. This way you don't have to fuss with an extra chimney. While the meat is resting off to the side, give this just a couple minutes and the charcoal will get fired up nice and hot. After just a couple minutes, got a nice hot bed of coals. Gonna spread them out a little bit, get the steak on, and get it searing away. Take the coals, just spread them out so you got a nice even hot bed over half the barbecue. This will give you a hot zone and a cool zone, because when you're searing prime rib, all the fat on it causes big flare-ups, so it's great if you can move it off to the void side of the cooker where there's no heat and let the fire die down. So that's all looking perfect. Get the cooking grate back on. 1 hour and 42 minutes into the cook. Here's a peek of the prime rib after it's been resting, getting the coals fired up nice and hot. Now the barbecue's screaming hot. It's time to get this on and start searing it away. Now the fun part. Get the prime rib on and searing away. When doing this, you want to keep a very close eye on the meat cooking and flip it often. After just a minute, you can see the fat causing flare-ups. Take the prime rib, just set it off to the void side of the cooker, let the fire cool down, and we'll take it and flip it over to the other side. With the flare-ups calmed down, it's time to flip the steak, get a sear on the other side. Oh, look at that. Nice brown mahogany. That's a perfect color on that. Check out the color on that steak searing away. Now with the flare-ups, just move the steak back over to the void side of the cooker. Now with the flare-ups stopped, I'm gonna take the prime rib, flip it back over, and start searing the other side quickly this time. Don't want to leave it too long, but you can see you got a nice sear on this edge. Grab the camera, you can get a little closer. Here's a nice close-up of the prime rib searing away. Now when you start seeing the flare-ups kick up like that for more than 10 seconds, it's good to grab your tongs. Just set it off to the side on the void side of the cooker. Let the fat burn off and the flare-ups come down. Once they do, take it, just flip it back over to the other side. It's just due to the marbling and so much fat in the prime rib that you're always going to get these flare-ups, and it's easier and better just to move it off to the side. Last sear, and it's ready to come off. Got a nice sear on both sides. Get this last edge a little bit. You can see that side and that side. It's looking good. Take it off, we'll get it inside, cut it up, take a closer peek. After 2 hours, prime ribs off the cooker and ready to be sliced. Let's go right down the middle and take a peek. Check that out. Nice and juicy from bumper to bumper. You got a nice smoke ring in there. That's that line you see on the outside from the smoke as it's cooking. And as this sits out, let it oxidize for a minute or so. You'll see the meat will actually start to turn a darker red color. Got a little piece of the bone at the end there. But slice that open, take a peek at that. Just dripping juicy goodness. I don't want to squeeze it too much, but looks fantastic. Only one way to really find out, isn't there? Get a nice close-up view so everyone can see. Tastes fantastic. Once the prime ribs off the cooker and ready to be served, I like to give it a good sprinkling of fresh cracked black pepper, or you can use your favorite steak spice. Just trying to avoid some peppers and spices burn when you're searing the steak and get pretty bitter. So I like to give it a little coating of pepper once it's done, and this is ready to serve.